for people that don't know me, I'm a therapist from Boston. I started this podcast in 2018 because I wanted to help people work on their healing journey if therapy was not available to them. I wanted people to have an option. And through this journey, I realized people really enjoyed the relationship topics. So was it last year or a year and a half ago?
I don't know.
Oh, a while ago. I was like, because Jeff had came on one of my podcasts and we talked about relationships. And I was like, yo, Jeff, you think you could come on like once a month with me? And we could name it like, let's talk about relationships. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. And then he was like, yeah, let's get people to ask questions. And it's been going really amazing. So I'm really grateful to Jeff. I'm going to have Jeff introduce himself to you all.
What's up, y'all? I'm Jeff. I'm an executive coach, leadership coach, facilitator, all those things. The bottom line is my role is to help people, if they need to, strip themselves to the studs and rebuild, right? We're not our own slaves. Even the things that we want to change about our lives, sometimes we can't figure out how to do it, and I'm here to help you do it. That includes relationships, but I wouldn't be here without Celeste The Therapist, who, let me say, did every single thing for this, and I did absolutely nothing. So round of applause for Celeste.
No, but I couldn't. Wait, I'm going to bring it back to him because I couldn't do this show if he wasn't here. So round of applause for Jeff.
If we could kill that, have either someone freestyles or we kill that bass music that's over there.
Yeah.
Is it right there? Is that what it is? All right, you're not responding.
So,
who can turn down the music? Whoever can, please do so.
So just so you all know, I have 2 books that I created. One is a guided journal called 365 Days of Intentional Living. And the other one is a book called Relationship Goals that is on sale right now. Actually, it's not on sale. It's just a regular price. My bad. I didn't mean to say it was on sale. Yeah, so that's that. And then I want to introduce to you guys Coach Julian. So stand up there because you're going to get the mic because he's going to be the one working the crowd. He's actually the boxing coach. I've been going to him since September. Julian, I've been mad faithful, right, Julian? Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, thank you.
So,
and it just started after I was done talking.
Well, say it again so they can hear the faithful part.
Say that part again.
They didn't hear the faithful part. It wasn't on. So say it one more time.
Okay, she's been very faithful to the class, committed
what
early
time,
and
what
often.
What time am I getting there?
She's there she's almost there on time every time.
All right. Don't tell her the time, though.
I would tell her. She gets there about 6:10, 6:05.
Yeah. AM.
It starts at 6. If you come, it starts at 6.
I'd rather just lose the fight than get up and box at 6 o'clock every day. I'd rather just get beat up. The crowd, I do need some from y'all that's important. Yeah, buy her book and all that. But what I really need you to do not let me walk out of here without this red umbrella. You have a lot. Listen,
especially
it's
it's
on
not
everybody here to make sure that I do not forget my umbrella because I brought it. Thank you.
And when it's not raining, you really be forgetting it.
Exactly.
So we're gonna start with the questions. So the way our show works, people actually write in on the website about relationship questions. So it's not just intimate relationships; it's family, friends. So there's a multitude of questions we're going to try to get through. So I'm going to have Julian grab one of the questions. And
getting better with the mic by the second. Don't hold it close.
And I think the benefit of having y'all here is we're going to hear what y'all think about some of these questions too, what you might do. It's not just us two like it often is. So, Julian, if you could read it.
Yeah. Is it possible for someone close to you to be jealous of you? I have a close friend who seems to hate everything I do. I've stopped sharing my wins in life because I realized they are not happy for me. She will either change the subject, find something negative to say. I don't know how to speak up. I don't know how not to be in this relationship. I'm 32, and she has been my friend since we were in 4th grade.
Aww.
Yo. Now, before we ask, so I want to hear what y'all think, but what if somebody came here today and they're 32 and you realize you sitting at the table with the person you asked the question? That would be crazy. Are either of y'all 32? Okay, all right, so it's not that table. We're going to go table by table and see who this is.
No, it doesn't. So these questions actually came in. So it doesn't necessarily mean somebody was here that asked the question.
I think they're here though. I got a sense from reading it, from hearing it, that they're here.
He's trying to help you out, 32-year-old.
No. So what do y'all do? So the question is that I heard. They said, is it possible for someone that's close to you to be jealous of you? Then they listed a lot of things that sound like symptoms of jealousy. What do y'all think? Is there another, maybe? She's not your friend. What do you think? Go ahead.
Oh, Mike, so it can be on the record.
Raise your hand, and Julian will come to you. Up.
Yes, I do think it's possible for somebody close to you to be jealous. It may not be intentional, but as they see you progressing and maybe reaching goals and doing things that for some reason that they aren't, some of the resentment, turns into jealousy. And I do believe it. It did happen to me, somebody very, very close to me.
She could be 32.
She's
It could
32.
be her.
Aha, gotcha. All right, so you think it's possible?
Yeah.
Well, here's what I ask. So I think we know it's probably possible. Is there another explanation? Could we even think of another reason why? Like, what other explanation could there be? Is there anything else? Raise your hand if you want to talk into the mic. We got to catch it. Is there any other
That's the only
reason why
I'm here, so
somebody?
if you don't raise your hand, what can I do?
I think it could be a situation of low confidence with that person themselves. So it's not really about the friend. It's about how they're feeling about themselves and just not getting ahead.
So they're projecting.
Exactly.
I tell Celeste something. Celeste doesn't go, "Oh, Jeff, you're the best that ever lived." And I go, "Damn, Celeste is a hater." But Celeste wasn't really hating on me. It could just be in my head. I project. I think that Celeste isn't showing enough love, so I turn her into Celeste is a hater. Is that what it could be?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, because it's recording. You do need the mic.
Oh, do you have to hold it? I'm sorry.
I do. Sorry. I'm glad.
Julian's
everybody
gonna hold
got
the
that
mic,
out way.
folks.
If we come over there, I'm gonna hold it, but we can hold hands if you want.
Oh.
All right, good.
So I also believe that not everyone shows support in the same type of ways. So some people might need like verbal type of support, while others just need that action part, which is like just showing up for me. Yeah, we have different love languages. So I have a friend who, she sees me as unsupportive because I am not a verbal person, but I am an action person. So I show up. You know what I'm saying? I'm buying your products or whatever the business is.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't tell you, "Oh, you're doing such a great job," all the time. And some people need that. So just understanding and learning each other's love languages as you grow and build your friendship.
Damn,
Very
I
good.
like that one.
Very
I
good.
didn't think
Julian,
about
can I ask you to read? It's like the second half. It lists the
Yeah.
symptoms.
So I have stopped sharing my wins because I realized she's not happy with me. She will either change the subject or find something negative to say to confirm that it's not a good thing, that she's not really cheering.
All right.
I agree with everything that was said previously. I co-sign snap, but I also think prior to like really getting into it, I think there seems to be a lack of communication between them two. I think often with our friendships, we're not able to communicate the way we should, and it becomes like this big mass of issues where it should be like, "Girl, like, I don't like the way you spoke to me from the jump," and that's not easy. I relate, but I think if we can get to that space of holding space for other people as well as vocalizing when you're uncomfortable, I think that would kind of stop us from kind of building these relationship and friendship poles.
So you think
I like that.
we shouldn't even have to guess, because she should say, "Hey, I share these things," and then you change the subject or you say things that are negative. I mean, is there an issue, or like, can we explore this? That's what you think she should do?
Yeah, I think the communication thing is there. This other person doesn't even realize that the friend is struggling with them. And so sometimes I think when we're struggling with somebody and it's in our mind, then we start to perceive things in a certain way. So we're only going to point out the narrative we created in our mind. So I think exactly what you said is true, that it's important to have that conversation, especially at the infancy of that thought, because the thought begins to grow.
Right? You go, "Listen, I know people so well that I know what they're thinking, and I don't even have to ask them, and I'm already certain." That's how good I am at knowing others.
I was just going to agree with the young lady or the young woman right here and just saying one word, accountability, and just holding each other accountable. And like you said, making that statement, I'm not comfortable, I didn't appreciate this, what is that about? And really getting to the core of what the issue is so you can move on or move forward.
No, there's one right there, Drew.
Sorry, I got to get my glasses fixed.
I also think one of the big issues is the fact that they've been friends for 4th grade. And, like, people change. Like, if they're grown now, she's in their 30s, I'm thinking, or he, like, as someone who's had a best friend since before 9th grade, we've grown so much. And what made us best friends in 9th grade is maybe not what we possess. Like, those characteristics are not what we possess now. So it takes work to have a long-term friendship. And I think, that work needs to be done for me too, about my friendship.
Well, let's see.
Same level of thinking.
What you
I need to do some work. I haven't talked to her in months, and I need to do some work.
You're doing a little therapy now.
Yeah, that wasn't me, though. That wasn't my
That was
I think we found it.
We found it. That's it. She was like, and that's why I don't talk to Tanisha no more. I mean, all right, so let's try an experiment. Raise your hand if you've been on the writer side of this, meaning you found before, damn, someone who was a friend, I feel like they're starting to get jealous of me. Raise your hand if you've had that experience. So, his hand shot up. All right. So it's like maybe a third, a quarter of people have had that experience? Okay. Now here's another question. Let's see who's courageous enough. Raise your hand. Let's see. Because it can't be none. Raise your hand if you ever had a friend who they had a life change or something like that, and you found yourself.
They said they don't want you to ask that question.
Right. As ugly as it may be, you found yourself going, man, am I jealous of this person? Is there anyone who will admit to that? Wow. As many people. And some of the same people. Some of the same people have said it. That's interesting, isn't it?
Well, we're humans, so it's not that interesting to me. I'm a therapist. I don't know if y'all know I'm a therapist. So it's not that surprising. I just think that it's not acknowledged. We're not normalizing the fact that we all have different kind of emotions. So I think that's why it can feel hard to admit at times, but it's important to be honest with ourselves so we're not projecting these things.
All right, so let's see now with this crowd. Who thinks there's going to be two options? Either cut this friend off, they're a lost cause, or they should have the talk that this young woman brought up. I'm going to call you young, you're welcome. That this young woman brought up, which is that she should say, hey, can we process this idea? But knowing that you said that's difficult, I think it's difficult too. Saying some version of, Celeste, I noticed you've been hating on me.
Well, are you saying that to me right now? I just want to make sure. You don't think I hate on you, do you? Oh, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Look how hard it is. Look how hard it is to do this. So raise your hand if you think they should have that conversation. A better version of, I noticed you've been hating on me. All right.
I think so, too. Yeah.
And raise your hand. Actually, you know what? We're recording this, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do it a different way so people who can hear it. Clap if you think that that's what they should do. All right. Clap if you say, listen, man, sometimes you outgrow people. You got to cut them off. That's why I don't talk to Tanisha.
Like my girl over here.
Right. That's why I don't talk to Tanisha no more. Clap if you think that. All right. That seems close to equal, but not close. That's close. It seems like people want to talk it out, but we acknowledge that's not so easy.
With the scenario, have you had the conversation prior? Because I feel like you can't cut somebody off for a reason that they do not know. So unless you've had that conversation before and they're still not changing or it's not working, then you can cut them off. But to just cut them off and they didn't have that conversation with you, they don't know that anything is wrong or anything like that, I think it's kind of wrong to do that.
Well, I'm going to ask you, is it that you can't cut someone off like that or you shouldn't?
I think you shouldn't because that's rude. And two, you've built such a bond with someone. How would you feel if somebody did that to you? It would not feel that great. So,
right.
You know.
Do people agree with that? That you owe it to them? You owe it to the relationship?
Relationship from 4th grade or 9th grade, whatever. You owe me that to tell me your issue with me, or else you were never my friend.
She's not playing.
Yeah, I've heard. Listen, it sounds like your friendship's ride or die. Emphasis on the die.
With the two questions you previously presented, if you guys would stay friends after, what's to say that after the conversation you have to?
So you have the conversation. You say, "Hey, I want to have a conversation with you. I'm not going to be your friend no more, and here's the reasons. You're a hater.
No.
Goodbye."
After the conversation, we'll see how it goes, and that might be the beginning of a new chapter of your friendship, or maybe the last convo.
All right, we're going to take a few more on this. The cut him off woman wants to speak.
No, no, we haven't talked, but I still love her. We just haven't talked, but I haven't cut her off. What I'm saying is, I feel like the crazy thing is we give so much grace to our romantic relationships, but not to our friendships. So no, you don't cut your friend off.
snap.
You'll let that man cheat on you 3, 4, 5 times before cutting him off. But your friend does one thing bad, and now she's a hater. So I feel like we need to give our
Right.
friendships more grace, for real.
Right. Because your friends can't dignitize you, so it's all about. Right. So in other words, the minute they're not acting right, they're out. Right. That's the situation. All right. We're gonna take. Was your hand up, or you just agree with the dignitized comment? Congratulations, sir. She agreed with the dignitized comment. I would be so proud.
I strongly agree with what she said about having a conversation with someone and making sure you give them that opportunity. But also, what about those situations when you speak to someone and they don't own up to that situation, and then it makes you kind of feel like it's all in your head.
They're
When really
gaslighting
there's
you,
more,
right?
Exactly. When really there's more to it than what they're actually admitting to.
What do you mean? What do you mean? I didn't do that. This isn't your top. Nah, I bought this.
Yeah.
I didn't pour bleach on your stuff. I just have the bleach and your stuff is bleach. It wasn't me.
Right.
Right. Well, here, Celeste, what do you think? Hearing all this and letting all this factor in, what do you think this person should do?
You know, even though it's, like you said, like the cutting off part, I think we all have choices, right? So it's not that we can't cut somebody off, but if we're really struggling with it, like it would be okay to do, but I think it would make more sense to communicate. I also feel that relationships are hard, friendships are hard, and like you said, as we grow older, we change, and sometimes one person is elevating at a different rate than the other. And we don't recognize it, and we still, like, we may have bonded over trauma, we may have bonded over being in the same school or same neighborhood, and we grow, you know? So I think it's really challenging, but I think it's important that people are being mindful and taking care of themselves and giving themselves what they need, even if it doesn't feel good to the other person on the outside.
I like it. I think this crowd really centered around a lot of the factors, and let's just tie them all together. I think it's very true that a long-term friendship, somebody who's friends from 4th grade, now you're 32,
That's a lot.
right? That's a long time. That's more than half your life. So you'll never have new 4th grade friends ever again. So just discarding somebody is rough. At the same time, people can grow apart as you grow apart. They just don't fit anymore, just like your favorite shoes might not fit you forever,
Not a
whatever
bad
it is.
thing either.
Right. And so I would lean towards talking to this person, saying, hey, you know, I've noticed this thing. I would not use the word hater, even though I kept doing it to be shorthand. I would actually never say hater. I would say, I wonder, oftentimes I bring things to you, and I wonder, you know, where you're at, because I used to think of you as so positive, and I thought we had a lot of positive interactions. And now, like, remember when I talked to you about opening my XYZ, and I felt like you were negative about it. And I don't know, so I just, you know, do you not want me to bring things or whatever it is? But you got to be ready for the gaslighting, which has at least a 50% chance of happening,
Yeah.
right? That's what you got to be ready for it. I'm not saying you should, but you steel yourself to know this is the last thing I do before I accept we might have outgrown each other. So just cold cutting people off for no reason, that leaves open some of the problems you mentioned. Maybe you're projecting, maybe it's all in your head. So I don't recommend that. But you give someone a chance to say, oh, you thought I was negative about, no, girl, I wanted you to open that thing, and I'm so happy you're doing it, and I'm going to make an effort to do so. I'm going to be positive in the future. And you go, word. And then you be ready for, if we start going uphill, then now we hang out more. If it keeps going downhill, you've said your piece. You can't, like, argue people to be happy for you.
Let me just say one last thing, too. Sometimes people have things going on in their life, and they don't have the capacity to give you that. So they're only giving you what's inside of them. So it's not, it may not be like a hater thing. It could just be that they are struggling, and they're giving you their struggle. So they can't, see your vision. They can't see your growth. When I said I wanted to start a podcast, somebody said, well, everybody has a podcast, but they ain't got my podcast. So, so I think it's important to just remember that. Like, sometimes people aren't in a position to see it, but it not necessarily maybe a hater. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's as good as you can do. You got to be ready. You know, relationships take maintenance, but sometimes you also got to trade them in.
Yeah.
Or as this woman would do, light them on
Leave
fire and
her
get the
alone.
insurance money.
Sorry, leave her alone. Julian, next question.
All right. So, Jeff, this question is directly for you.
Oh, I know which one that is.
What this gonna
I
be?
don't know the answer, bro.
ahead.
So I hope you got it.
Yes, I will make love to
Jeff.
you. Well, depending on who you are.
How can you not understand we together, but not together?
So we.
I'm glad this was asked.
No, wait. So.
I'm so glad this
Just
was
for
asked.
people who don't listen to the podcast. So there was this question where somebody wrote in. Well, Jeff, because Jeff has a way of speaking that is so eloquent, and it's like, you
Thanks.
was bothered by that question.
So the person said something to the equivalent of, we're monogamous, but not boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I said, what the hell does that even mean? I still don't understand. How would I know that we're, now, it's a hetero couple, let's say. How would I know that we're monogamous but not in a relationship? What would be the distinction? I'm happy for anyone to answer this for me as I rebut you and browbeat you because it's not possible.
So together but not together, meaning like
Here's specifically,
Yeah.
we're monogamous but we're not in a relationship. Explain.
that means you're not sleeping with nobody else. I mean,
Mike?
So my question is, was this during COVID or pre-COVID?
That is a good question. The person, it was during COVID, but they didn't say due to COVID. But I get what you're saying. You say, listen, it's just, right now I'm only seeing one prostitute, for example. That would be a way to do it. I understand. But let's take that away.
Define the definition of a relationship.
well, like a title, I guess. Like, we're a boyfriend and girlfriend.
I mean, there's friends with benefits. There's some other things, situationships.
I want you, the crowd member, and you're a big, handsome, light-skinned guy. I'm sure you got a few of these. Explain it to me. Explain it to me how this would work, where you say we are romantic. We're not saying we don't have romantic care for each other, and we're only having sex with each other, but we're not in a relationship. Explain that. Tell me how I would know.
You wouldn't unless you actually had the conversation, and I don't have those situations, so I couldn't really say from my personal point.
I need a
But I would
distinction.
have the conversation because that's who I am.
And if someone had this conversation with me, I would say, I don't know what you're talking about because I don't understand, which I still don't.
I think in terms of monogamous but not in a relationship is you're seeing them sexually or romantically, whatever. It's just that person, but you guys haven't reached that point to where you're like, I'm committed to you and I want to go in a direction. You know, most times you meet someone and it's very nice to hang out and you spend a lot of time together and, you're having good sexual moments and you think about it, you're like, wow, this person's really fun, but can I see myself marrying this person? And sometimes you can't. And sometimes people are just here for fun, and that's okay. But I think being on that same page, that's when you define, like, okay, we're only sleeping with each other, we're only seeing each other, but we're just not there mentally to be in a relationship right now.
So does that mean someone? I know. Right? Does
Go
that
ahead,
mean
dude.
someone has to? Someone in that scenario has to ask the question, right?
I don't think you have to ask the question. I think you kind of know what it is when you're. It's not okay.
Let her finish. She's been
No,
contributing.
I wanna say this because it's like if you're seeing somebody and all you guys do is hang out in the house, all you're doing is watching TV in the house,
So
or
far,
you
so
guys
good.
don't go places as much, and all you see is that you guys are having fun and it's just sex. Can you really say, okay, like, I can see myself marrying this person, or I can see myself committed to the point where, I want to be with them? No, but sometimes when you're having a great time, you don't question that great time. You know what I'm saying?
You do not, but I agree with that. Can I say something? What am I
Please
doing?
do.
All right, because that isn't the question.
I'm just saying, when you're grown, you need to develop some communication skills. And you can't read what's in another person's mind. You're making up stories about what's happening, but you don't know. And so the story in my head is that this person's committed to me. The story in their head is like, I'm good. I'm getting hit, and it's good, and I'm going out and doing my gym. You know, I'm doing my thing.
Dim the lights in here. Dim the lights just a little bit.
Wait, did she say head or hit?
I don't, whichever one. Dim the lights. Whatever you said, dim the lights.
I
This
said
is what I
hits.
hoped would happen tonight. Lock the door.
Hits.
So let me say. This question was many shows ago. I don't perfectly have it, but it was the people. They had like, a year or 18 months in, and the person was saying, what I didn't understand was they had a year or 18 months in, and they're monogamous, but it wasn't like a week. It was pretty long. It wasn't 10 years, but it was like a year, 18 months, something like that. And what they were saying was, we really like each other and we're monogamous, but we're not in a relationship. And that's what I didn't understand. The time, monogamy, and emotions. That's why it wasn't friends with benefits, and it wasn't, no one was paying anybody. It was like, I literally didn't understand the distinction. This young woman explained it close as I've ever heard, because you're saying that the idea, you're saying that the idea is that a relationship has some implicit, that it's on some kind of track. Yeah. And if you're not if you say, as long as we're not in a relationship, we're not on a track, we'll stay here forever. We eat wings, we have sex, we watch Law & Order SVU, and then we go our separate ways.
SVU be kind of lit, though.
I totally agree with with her take on it. I've definitely been in a situation like that many years ago when I was younger. We called it dating exclusively, where we only saw each other, and spent time with each other. But I wouldn't call it it definitely wasn't a situationship. Don't define it for me. It was dating exclusively. Mm-hmm. But, I feel like as time has moved on and as I've matured, you need to have, a specific conversation about, are we moving forward, or is this are we gonna walk away from this? Because you can't be in limbo forever. You need to figure out what's going on.
So you agree it has to do with whether you're on a track, whether the elevator is going up, or whether you're just in the elevator but no one's pushed a button. That's the idea?
Exactly, right, exactly. Mm-hmm. Because a situationship, I wouldn't introduce this person to my friends. If we're dating exclusively, I'd go and hang out with my friends, with this person, this is someone that I'm getting to know, and it's moving towards a relationship, but not exactly there.
People say situationship?
Yeah,
That's the thing.
But this situation that was going on wasn't a situationship. You can speak for yourself.
So they say, so they're together and they be like, so we in a situationship now.
You would say that? No, I've never heard someone call that. Well, yes, I have.
Yeah, you have? All right.
I've heard people say that, but you're right, it has a connotation to it. It has a messy connotation to it.
It has a connotation to it, but it wasn't exactly.
I accept. There was a...
Can people give their status, their own names? I mean, can we create our own names?
It's just...
Yeah, you can do whatever, but people are going to... If you name it something, people are going to... It has a common definition.
Right.
You know what I mean? Situationship is a little Jada Pinkett-ish. You know what I mean? A little I'm doing... Oh, that was wrong of me to say? I'm sorry. She's never done anything like that.
I just like where this conversation is going, where we're presenting the different names for certain things. And I'm reading this book called The Power of Now. And what he reinforces in the book is that words are signposts. So you shouldn't focus on the word, but the meaning behind it, because we can talk about which category, what situation falls in. But I think it's really important as we continue in this conversation that we don't get caught up in it's dating versus exclusive versus what was their meaning coming into this and what it is now.
Yeah.
So let's not get into
This was specifically a semantic. I actually made a semantic. I said I don't know the semantic distinction between being exclusive and monogamous and being in a relationship. I actually didn't know it, but let this man speak, and then I'm going to make an admission.
I just think there are degrees. There are degrees with these terms and words, and we get so used to locking it in on this one specific thing that, this is what a situationship is defined as because you have to do all these parameters to fit into this bucket. But there are degrees. There's different levels of what a situationship is versus what you're intentionally dating somebody, or versus what you know specifically you're not getting into or you're not doing. And if you're not having the conversation, then you're just hanging out in the elevator without pushing any buttons. And however you want to look at it, whatever definition you want to give it, it's still a situation because it's undefined and it's unclear. So it's a situation. It's just maybe not the definition of situation that you want to be comfortable with, or that you know for other people that have situationships, and you're like, oh, that's a situation. I would never get into that situation. But you're in a situation.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you rebut, but if
We
y'all
know,
start...
listen, it wasn't a situationship. We already know.
What I want to say is that everybody can define their own relationship.
I thought you were going to say,
know?
everybody can kiss my black ass.
Everybody can define their own relationship. I don't think it's really appropriate for someone else to define it, because at the end of the day, you know what it was. We were answering your question. What exactly is that? You know.
But I think the issue is people aren't defining it. Right? Yeah. I just think they're just doing it, and then everyone's confused. Well, one person's usually confused. The other person.
So I would like to say, so whoever wrote that question in an effort to undermine and attack me, you failed. Because in fact, I've been enlightened on this day, and I accept this communal definition.
Wow.
And I now do understand how one can be in a monogamous relationship with romance involved and not.
Jeff was fighting hard on this question.
I didn't well, I never.
People was DMing him about it too.
I was being a little funny, but I mostly said I don't understand the difference. But a little bit I said because there is none, because of being antagonistic.
Thank you,
But now I
audience.
understand. So this is y'all's show now. Goodbye.
Next question.
I'm having a hard time being alone.
We said read a question, man. Don't read your diary.
Now that I got a moment to talk to y'all. No, I am having a hard time being alone. During the pandemic, I realized I've been working so much and not paying attention to my feelings. Who wrote this damn question? I'm having a hard time being alone. During the pandemic, I realized I've been working so much and not paying attention to my feelings. What can I do to be okay with feelings? Every time I feel vulnerable, I begin feeling weak.
You can grab my book,
That wasn't my
365
question.
Days of Intentional Living. It got feelings in there, baby. Yeah. All your feelings.
What do you?
Anybody have any thoughts on that? Y'all
Anyone
know I
re-
got all the answers on this one, but I ain't, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let y'all do it.
Anyone relate to that? Anyone relate to the idea that feelings are weak, or that maybe you've ever felt that, or felt that communicated in the culture?
Sure. I'm having a hard time being alone. During the pandemic, I realized I've been working so much and not paying attention to my feelings. What can I do to be okay with feelings? Every time I feel vulnerable, I begin feeling weak.
Well, first off, I want to say that being weak shouldn't be, no, being vulnerable, being emotional isn't weak. That's one. That's all I'm going to say for right now.
Okay, we'll get to two later.
But you understand? Do you think that that's like a thing in the culture, or you've never heard that before this question?
I think it's what society says. And then also, like, just in this day and age, like, if you're sensitive, if you're emotional, like, you're weak, but that's not it.
Like, doesn't like Rihanna have songs about like she don't have feel, like she don't care? A lot of stuff is about I don't care about nothing. I do what I want. People, Snoop Dogg or whatever it is, like chicks love me, but I throw them in the garbage by the 100, right? That's like a idea.
You listen to Snoop?
I only listen to Snoop. Celeste.
I think it a little bit differentiates between whether it's the man or a woman that's making this statement.
You better let these people answer these questions.
Sorry, I gotta be quiet. I'm sorry.
And so, and I heard what the young lady just said about not being vulnerable shouldn't be considered weak, but you have to look at like society and what the general culture says and where we're at. And if that's a man making that statement, if he was to be vocal about that in other presence, there's a good still standing majority that he would be viewed as weak and get commented as such. I granted today that is changing quite a bit, and we are recognizing that men have feelings and we can be vulnerable, and like we are in a space of being alone and dealing with a lot of things. And so some men are willing to like admit to that and try to learn how to process through that. But to say that it shouldn't be weak or not seen as weak is just kind of dismissing what the generational and like systematic treatment of men has been, where yes, if you expressed that you had emotions that were not, oh, I just want to sleep with this girl and play ball and live my life, anything else was, oh, you're weak, you're not a man, you're a wuss, like man up.
Is it different if the man is married or single, and whether is he weak or strong?
It almost, I feel like today is starting to become a space where you can get some difference, but even say like 5 or 10 years ago, if he was married and he was expressing that, depending on who his wife was and how much of a support she was for him, that could be seen as weak too.
Right. So you're talking about toxic masculinity, which is not exclusive to men. You're talking about the idea that men, generally the idea is that men are allowed to be angry or greedy, but not sad, depressed, scared, anxious, lonely, because it'd be some version of stop being a bitch. Right?
Okay, so I just want to ask you a quick question. So you're saying like that's society's standpoint, but that's not necessarily the way we should think, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
But right, and so just to tie it all together, and so if he would to say, I have feelings and I'm depressed, you're saying that not everyone would say, finally, welcome and thank you for being open.
Okay.
That at least a plurality of people would say, well, maybe you should toughen up and be more like Rambo.
Exactly.
Got it.
So, yes.
Timely reference, Rambo, John Rambo.
Jeff is stating his age.
Yes, that is an issue for men, and strong black women trope, anybody?
Absolutely.
So, and it's not just when we say like, oh, society, you're also forgetting about society and the family. This is like intergenerational trauma. Right?
Yeah.
So the idea that someone could experience difficult feelings, where would they have learned how to manage those? Where? Not in school? Not at home? Right? Not at work? So, it's time to, and it's shifting, right? The stigma around therapy is shifting, et cetera. It makes sense to me that this person is like struggling with when my physiological state is such that this is so uncomfortable. All I know how to do is punch a wall.
Right.
So just to say that, and women too. Because, what do you mean?
You can definitely learn on Celeste The Therapist podcast how to deal with your emotions too. So,
They're already, you don't have to
I know.
They're
I keep
here.
plugging myself. I don't got to plug
They're here right
We're all
now.
here.
We'll chill later.
So if I was in this position or giving them advice, I would ask them to try to find a safe space. That's under the impression that they do have a space. That's not always the case, but I try to have them find a safe space or a safe person that they can start that dialogue with. And as well as look for what resources they can find online. There are a lot of guides of like, you can do step 1, talk to a friend. Step 2, maybe you might need to talk to a counselor. Step 3, a therapist. You'll be surprised what's online. You can't use it all as Bible, but to start to do a little research to kind of frame, I think we're all very intelligent in terms of having Google so readily available. So trying to do a little research on how to start to communicate those difficult emotions that they may be having.
I like it. You're answering the last line is how can I get comfortable with having emotions? And you're bringing together like, well, a safe space. It could be therapy, right? See if Celeste has any openings. But it could be short of that. It could just be a person who you trust enough to just broach the idea of, yo, do you ever feel like not happy and successful? And they go, yeah, all the time. And then you talk about that for a little while. And then at the end of that, you a little weight is lifted off because you're not alone with it. Because it started off with, I'm so alone, and ended with, how do I get comfortable with my feelings? Getting comfortable with some of those feelings is about not handling it all alone. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Oh, one thing that I was thinking about was specific, because a person could, let's just say, submit this question any day or any time period, but they specifically reference the pandemic. So I don't want to miss that, just because I think so much of, we talked a little bit about, or folks talked a little bit about society before, and I think that society still has specific expectations of productivity, and holds us to those bars, and we hold ourselves to those as well, as if we are not still living in a raging pandemic, and as if people are still not contracting and dying in front of us, and as if our whole family dynamics have shifted, whole industries that once were are no longer, and as if so many aspects of who we are as individuals, but as a culture, are really being put in front of us like a mirror, where we really have to re-examine some things. So the reason why I say that is this question could have been submitted in terms of loneliness, and this person is grieving, is what it sounds like to me. Right. So it can be submitted at any time, but specifically thinking about it with the context of the pandemic and how in such a short period of time, so many things changed so significantly. Are you a therapist? I'm not.
Because you're about to be
But
like, let me get your card.
No.
Because you're dropping science.
No, but my therapist is here. And this is kind of I didn't submit this question, but this is something that we've talked about. And making sure that I recognize context and I give myself grace, you know, in trying to really make sense of it. That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Right.
But just that grace, I think that's one of the things that's missing from this, because in referencing that, it also sounds like this person has specific expectations that they should be okay with, but they're not okay with. So what do I do with them?
Right. Well, so, you know, we kind of breeze over it, but of course, not only has COVID killed something around 800,000 Americans, and cost, you know, billions of dollars and disrupted lives, but it brought on a mental health crisis based on the level of isolation. People need human contact. Humans are social animals. Just like you'll never see one ant or one bee. There's no bee that just lives in his own condo, right? Every bee lives in a beehive. That's what it's like to be a bee. Well, humans don't live without a society, right? We just don't live without one. And suddenly we retracted. And so the people were very brave. They had to go out into an unvaccinated COVID world and work physically every day. But there was something else that happened, which is the people that either lost their jobs and stayed home and were on unemployment, or the people who worked through, like people like Celeste and I think mostly just retracted onto like Zoom. And it's not the same. It's not a good substitute for human interaction. And some people are doing that and don't have a family, don't have kids, don't have anything, and they feel so alone. And they basically are in a version of solitary confinement. But you're not supposed to say that, because you're supposed to, somehow, during COVID, our work hours actually went up. People worked more during COVID, because they used to say, well, we get to work from home, but it's actually not what happened. What happened is you live at work. Now you answer emails on the weekend. You do things that you wouldn't have done before. There's no boundary. There's no distinction. Everyone has seen your bedroom or wherever you work out of. And so the challenge is people are feeling extra disconnected at this time, and we're just kind of getting away from it, but it caused a huge mental health crisis. Celeste, I joke, but you don't have openings, right? Like you're full up, right? That's what every therapist says, because more people need therapy now than ever, and access is dwindling.
Mm-hmm. And now, I'm gonna say some people have limited if you need a therapist. Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to imply, and therefore don't try. I just meant this is happening as an indicator. I'm sorry. This is happening. This indicates that people are feeling worse and the mental health is suffering, that so many people are inquiring. That's what I meant. Mm-hmm. Please, if you need help, do seek it out.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Pure Spark over here. Whoop, whoop. She is definitely somebody that's connecting people to therapists. I think people know me well because I'm on social media, but there's definitely some therapists out there that have openings, and she is in Massachusetts, has a nice list. Yeah. I want to say with this question, one thing I want people to do what you said is do your research. And I think like we can go in the shade room or we can go on Instagram and we can look up stuff and go on, or we can look up, your friend call you and be like, yo, check out my ex's page because I think he's on a trip with this chick, whatever, right? So we'll do that research real good, you know what I'm saying? Because, I had some calls, you know what I'm saying? I was on the research too. But I think we should really do the research for ourselves, right? And identify what we're going through and do the work. I think when it comes to our individual selves, we put ourselves on the back burner. But if it was somebody else that came to us with this issue, we would definitely give them the 411, the information. 411, I'm old, so for the young people.
That was a number you called
That was
where
a
they
number
would
you
give
called.
you
They would
information.
get, 411. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like Google
I know.
for a rotary
Who
phone.
doesn't know 411? Oh my God.
Oh, man.
We're so old.
From now on,
All
you
right,
can
let's
call
move-
Celeste grandma.
Let's move on. What's the
So,
next?
right. So hopefully that writer knows. Basically, you seek out somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
A therapist is one person, but also a trusted friend where you just say, look, we usually don't talk like this, but real talk, I'm feeling down in a different way, or I'm feeling whatever in a different way, and see if you can build a relationship, add a dimension to a relationship that you already have, if you can't reach a therapist or something like that.
We have 411. We could call the weather to figure out what. I'm telling y'all, we had it
Nana,
rough.
nobody wants to hear it. Stop with these peppermint candy stories. No one wants to wear this, Granny.
All right. So, I have finally allowed myself to love again, only to be deceived. I feel stupid for not seeing the signs. I don't want to dismiss the idea of love again, but I'm feeling traumatized.
Can we get a different question?
I absolutely can. I have finally allowed myself to love again, only to be deceived.
Damn.
I feel stupid for not seeing the signs. I don't want to dismiss the idea of love again, but I'm feeling traumatized.
What do y'all think? Is there a question, or are they just saying that?
Hold on, my girl said she
I
been
think this
through
is
it.
just a share.
Is this you again?
No, because you know what she would do? Fire them. Fire that one. They're done. Not talking to her no more.
I'm going to just say, do the self-work, stop responding to your triggers and going to the energy that you know, and like really figure out yourself for what you actually want, as opposed to responding to those triggers and then getting hurt by doing the same thing.
But it sounds like the trigger is getting cheated on. So is that easy?
So are there new habits? Are there new habits that can be developed?
What I heard, although they didn't say it, it sounds to me, they said, I let myself love, I was deceived, and I feel stupid for not seeing the signs.
Yeah.
It
You
seems
should
to
have
me-
seen the signs, because you should know if you've been in this position before and you know what the habits and the things are, if you know what you're going into. Like, I'm not going to go date somebody that I previously dated that I know have these triggers and have these emotions that I might respond to. But like, I did the work to recognize that like this energy, as much as it's drawing me and I'm like, ooh, this is the person, I know this is coming from a toxic place or somewhere that's like not a well space, and I'm not going to engage with it again because I've already learned my lesson.
So is your advice you should have left sooner and smarten up next time?
Nah, I've already taken care of my trash.
Yeah, you can't pick out the trash.
But so is the advice smarten up? You should have left earlier. I got to be honest. That's what it sounded like you said. Okay, what do y'all think?
Speaking from a relatively similar experience, so a guy fumbled me, but it's okay.
I like how you put that. No, I like that. I agree.
He fumbled me. Honestly, it can be really difficult with relationships, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. So the first thing I would suggest was for that person to show themselves some grace, because I'm sure their shame, disappointment, especially at that moment when you get dumped, like you are not like, Lord, I know my man is coming. You're sad, you're defeated, you're crying. So I would definitely suggest first that they show themselves some grace, show themselves some love, a little bit more self-care, and then go into the process of evaluating what may or may have not gone wrong for them. But definitely show yourself some love to start. That's what I would say.
I like it. I'd like to point out quickly that this question, for all we know, it was a man who was cheated on by a devil woman. Thank you.
I agree with everything that everyone said, but I just want to add, like, after the grieving process, you should reflect on what are the things that you missed. What are the things that you were like, oh, yeah, he did that, but it's okay. Or, yeah, that was a weird situation that he put me in, but it's okay.
When you
know?
say it's okay, what do you mean? I forgive him and we're back together? I forgive
Yeah.
her and we're back together? Now
Not
I'm
like
doing
I
it.
forgive him, but like, it's fine.
You're talking about the reflection, though, not.
Yeah, reflection.
So what is fine? It's fine, like
She's saying
just put it into words.
She's saying recognize the signs from the previous.
You recognize the
Yeah.
signs, but when you say, this person who could be a female or male,
Yeah.
they did that, but now it's fine. But I'm asking you, does that
like
mean?
in the at the start of something, like you notice certain things. like,
Okay, you're saying
like,
they were
there's something in
rationalizing
his-
things away.
Yes, like you saw something on his phone, but you're like, oh, it's fine. Like it's his sister, it's his cousin. I know.
His sister sent him booty pics.
But like little signs, like you would have seen something.
Okay, but how does that help? But although I think that's true, like you said, smarten up next time. You're saying this, but I want you to think for a minute. Even if you catch them the first, so in other words, they didn't cheat on you for a year because you caught them the first time. They still cheated, you're still hurt, so actually the situation wouldn't change. I allowed myself to love again, and now I've been devastated. So even if I catch them on the first day, same thing happened. No matter how many times the dick got in the mouth, it was there once. It's too much for me. Hold on, Julian, could you go back?
Oh wait,
I'm
I know
sorry.
a situationship person has a question.
Well, I posed this to her, so we're gonna get to you. We're not gonna forget you.
Okay, I'm sorry, but there's always signs, like little signs. There's always something. It's not just it's a 1 year and everything's fine. There's always something.
But who did something wrong? Did the letter writer, from what we know, did they do anything wrong? Something to think about. Let's hear. I'm not going to call you situationship because that's not how you define it. And Celeste, that was wrong.
I said no. The girl said she's married now.
You can't call me that. Anyway, and it was many moons ago. I was in college. Anyway, I think what this person, the way they phrase the question, I think they're trying to process their trauma from the situation, and I feel really bad for them because it seems that the failure in this relationship is really making them feel like it's a reflection of them, and that's like what I'm hearing there, and it's tough for them to move forward because of that.
I gotta say, I like that assessment. That seems pretty accurate to me. Is this someone else? I feel like sometimes I neglect this side.
Oh, sorry.
Well, you're wearing camouflage, so I can't even really see you. Anyone over? Okay. Celeste, what do you think?
Julian, let me see the question again.
Okay.
Well, she don't have to see it.
I'll hold it. Yeah. So I finally allowed myself to love again, only to be deceived. I feel stupid. So that I feel stupid for not seeing the signs. I think it's hard. Like you said, what people do, like in that relationship, unfortunately, they will allow that to be their value. So I think for someone that, whether the letter writer or whoever may be dealing with this, I just want you to give yourself grace and know that just because somebody else doesn't see your value doesn't mean you don't have value.
All right. He fumbled me. I heard that within the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He fumbled me.
Yeah.
Not I wasn't good enough, and so he didn't. You know what I mean? He fumbled me because I'm worth having. I got all this and all this, everything.
And feeling traumatized, and I hear you, and I just think that feelings change. No matter like what emotion you're in, the vulnerable feelings that you may have right now, they won't always be the same. I know it feels that way in the moment, but definitely give yourself grace and know that you have value.
Right. I think that's very good. Let me say that although I
Can I get one of those chickens? Go ahead, sorry.
You just about to eat chicken on stage? You braver than me. So here's what I think about. All right, I understand the response to say there's always signs. I understand that because there's a part of the way that we think about relationships as if it's our job to police others. I'm going to police you. You are like, it's like you have no autonomy, and we've made a deal, and I own you now. I'm going to like catch you. I'm going to like patrol the perimeter. But in fact, I think that is a failing strategy. And I think yeah, he did fumble you. Yeah. I think a better way to approach it is to, you know what a trust fall is? That kind of 80s exercise. Someone stands there, let's say I stand on stage, turn my back, and then I trust you so much, I cross my arms and I fall backwards and you catch me. Now, you don't necessarily do a trust fall with a stranger, but at a certain point with the people in your life, you should trust that they're going to catch you. That's the deal you're making. That's the only way you can have the relationship you really want. You're not going to be able to have a relationship. You say, oh, I love them. I mean, I can't trust them. No, I'm constantly checking up on them in every way. I don't let them see my bank card. They might steal it. Okay, you don't have a good relationship then. A good relationship would be one where you could do a trust fall, a metaphorical trust fall. So this person did a trust fall in the past. It didn't work. They allowed themselves to love again. They did another trust fall, and the person let them hit the ground again. And the truth of the matter is, some people can be trusted and some can't, but the only real test would be to trust them. Yeah. And so that's the price of being in a relationship. That's of the relationship you want. You have to risk getting hurt. So I think that person did everything right and they shouldn't feel bad. What do you say, man, from what we know?
I agree, too. I think, too, sometimes when we're in a relationship, especially when we was in a relationship for a long time, right, and the person did us wrong, that's what we know a relationship to be. So then when you go into the next relationship, you kind of look for that comfort of what you know a relationship should be. But then when somebody come at you and it's different and you don't know how to accept it, you probably kind of stray away. So we tend to kind of go close to what we know, and then we don't see the signs, we become blind, and then we could be hurt again. But we got to be open to like something different.
So you're saying people get they're drawn to something toxic, and because it's familiar. And then if they ever encounter something that's not toxic, they go, it doesn't press the buttons in them. Right. So they go like, I'm used to fighting hard and then having hard makeup sex. Me and you never fight, so where's this good sex gonna come from? I'm gonna go mess with the dude who cheats on me and is bad.
Right.
That's the idea, right? Yeah. And that can be the other way too, certainly, other gender, any gender.
So is there a little bit of similarity in like, everything you want big in life takes some risk, right? If you want it hard, in business and in relationships, that still exists then, right? So the idea of love is a big risk. You have to chase that with both hands, yeah?
I mean, I think that's true, right? If the easy road...
You'd have to be vulnerable enough to be hurt.
If the easy road and the great road... Maybe chase is the wrong
word, but if you want to embrace it.
If the great road was easy, it would just be the road.
Everybody
you see what I'm saying?
do it.
Like, everyone would do it. So now this doesn't mean you're chasing down, like you're making people love you that don't love you. I just mean that to have a relationship where you really can trust somebody, you would have to trust them first. That's the only way you could really know. Of course, people swear up and down, but at a certain point, when you give them the key to your apartment, let's just say, once you give them the key, I guess they could just clean you out while you're at work. So you don't give the key to somebody on the first day, but at a certain point, if you're going to sleep with somebody, they could murder you in your sleep because you asleep. So at a certain point, you have to like open up. You're not going to, I still sleep with a knife under my bed after all these years. Okay, you don't have a good relationship because you have a knife that you threaten this person with. Did I see another? I swore I seen a hand up.
Sorry. I know you're holding it. My bad. I just was thinking about it, and not to say that it was interesting that the letter that was just read and then this one, because I was kind of thinking about it in reverse. Not to say that they're the same letter writer, but I'm thinking about...
If they are, a tough break, though.
I'm just thinking about it in terms of like trauma. Think about like this letter that was just read, and then the one we just read about the person being lonely. Yeah. So I was just thinking about it in terms of that, and then also thinking about the pandemic. What if there was a person prior to the pandemic that just went through something traumatic like this and then kind of dove themselves headfirst into work to try to fill a void, but now they're realizing that the void really wasn't filled, and they're sitting with themselves trying to process emotions, because that's what this person is talking about right here, trying to work through and process and make sense. And it sounds like the same from that last letter. And I was just like, not to say that they're the same person or connected, but that could be anybody's story.
Right.
Especially
I mean, this letter doesn't actually even ask a question. It actually begs us to project. They're saying the situation that they have, And then you could just imagine the defeat in saying that. I let myself fall in love again. I feel so stupid, and they're just dejected. And the truth of the matter is that what a person like this has to do is take some time to process, right? Understand that no one else is going to make you whole, meaning a lot of the work, as always, is you. You always have something to work on yourself. Not like, I can finally be whole when I get a relationship. That's going to come when it comes, but you can work on yourself starting today. And then when you find somebody, it is true that at a certain point, assuming they want a loving, trusting relationship, at a certain point, you're going to have to trust them, just like you're going to have to love them. You know what I mean? So in other words, you're going to be in this position again, the position of, it's scary to trust you, but because of how I feel about you and how I understand, I've looked, and I know the signs, and if you say, I'm a traveling salesman, and I always have to leave for 3 months at a time. Like, I don't know, dog, maybe the last time someone said this to me, it went wrong. But in the end, whatever you work out, it's going to involve trust, or you just won't be happy. I don't know of happy but non-trusting relationships. I can't think of one.
Yeah, we have about 5 more questions, so I want to make sure we get to them real quick. But I want to say that, we have expectations, and I think that a lot of times our expectations might get damaged by the other party. And unfortunately, some people get stuck in that, like what it was supposed to be like. So really being mindful of what it is going to be so important. Whether we're talking about intimate relationship, family, friends, I think this happens a lot. We see for Thanksgiving and Christmas is coming up, right? We see families together, but everybody doesn't have that dynamic. So I think it's really important to be mindful on what your situation is and not what it's supposed to look like as you're like dealing with life. Does that make sense, Jeff?
Makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah.
You try to crowbar things into your perfect image, but you don't go to war with the army you want. You go to war with the army you have.
Yeah.
So the people you have in your life, you got to deal with them as they are, not how you think they should be, not how you wish they are.
Mm-hmm.
When you see parents do that to kids, it messes them up. Like, I'm going to make you this, or
Yeah.
I'm going to make you not gay, or whatever the parent thinks.
Yeah.
In relationships, you decide, well, I'm going to get with this person and I'm going to change them. Not likely.
Yeah.
Instead, you rock with people how they are. You take them or don't. Almost all the work is on yourself.
Yeah.
Next question.
Really quick, one thing you said one time on the podcast is like about the change part. Somebody wrote in about their job, and you said you go in every day and you're the only person that can change.
Right? A way to think about almost everything.
Yeah.
Someone called me about their job. They were in tears about how much their job was stressing them out and how their boss does this and they want them to do that, and the employee does this, want to do that. I said, well, let's do a thought experiment. Let's imagine you are the only human being on earth that can change. Let's imagine that, okay? What would you do? And then they said, well, if none of this was going to change, I would leave. And I said, well, guess what? You have so much influence over yourself and so little influence over others that it's as if you were the only human that can change. It's not true. But you're the one, you have almost the entire influence over yourself and almost no influence over these people. She quit a job 2 weeks later, and now she has her own business, so that worked out good.
Y'all see why I be rocking with Jeff, yo? He be spitting the knowledge. Go ahead, Brendan.
How can I kindly tell a loved one that they are being taken advantage of by their spouse and that they need to take better care of themselves instead of putting others' needs first?
I'll hear what y'all say about this. What do y'all say? Raise them hands.
All right.
Solve this person's
I'm coming
problem.
back to the corner, bro.
How do I tell a loved one that they're being taken advantage of in their relationship and they need to put themselves first or not last?
You don't. People kill the messengers nowadays. You don't.
So you're going to get screenshotted. Next thing you know, you fist fighting in the street. A lot of people seem to be saying, I would not do anything here. What do y'all think? Raise your hand if you wouldn't interfere. Or clap if you wouldn't interfere.
Wouldn't, right? Wouldn't.
Would not. That's right. That's pretty loud. Let's see. Let's see if there's any way to help.
I've actually had this situation. I've had a best friend, and we're still best friends. We've been best friends since like 7th grade. So, and she was dating a guy that I went to college with. I knew this guy, like I knew him. Not like that, but I knew how he was. Like I knew how he acted with his other girlfriends, how he just behaved. And I told her when they started dating, I don't think you should, deal with him.
And that was early. It's not
That
like
was
they were
early on.
engaged.
That was early on. And as best friends, I think you have to understand how to communicate with that person, because people receive things differently depending on how you tell them things, right? So understanding how she receives information, I try to deliver it in that way. She ended up getting engaged to him.
And now they're happily married. Thanks for the story.
I wish it ended that well, but it didn't. But I continued to tell her, I don't think this is the best thing for you. Eventually, I had to bite the bullet, allow her to go through her process, and then she ended up seeing exactly what I basically told her. It wasn't a "I told you so" moment, but it was as if, she came to me and was appreciative of it, but I consoled her in that moment because I know she was still hurt.
Yeah.
So it's you have to say things out of love, and I feel like, you allowing somebody to go through that process and you love them, I can't do that myself. I have to let them know how I feel. And if they accept it, if they don't, that is what it is. But at least I said it, and there is no hard feelings between she and I or whoever it is. We're still going to be friends. We're still going to be loved ones in the end. But I feel like if you love that person and you see them being hurt, I can't go forward with that knowledge or with seeing that and not say anything. That's just it.
I appreciate that comment. I want everyone to take a mental snapshot of this phrase. She said, bite the bullet and allow them to go through it. Just remember that. I'm going to bring it up later. Go ahead, Jude.
We've been drinking, Jeff. You guys doing homework assignments?
I have to say, I would have to say if they were married, I don't know what I would do. I try to stay out of married people's business. But if it was really someone close to me, I wouldn't say not manipulate the situation, change the perspective. So rather than making it about the man, I would try to make it about her. Because typically when you bring the other spouse in, that's where it's like, you're gonna be telling me about my man. I'm like, you right,
What does
girl,
that look
I
like?
can't.
Make it about her. What,
So
give me an example.
I actually wrote something down that you said about that I'm gonna use. I would actually use what you said.
Dang, she's taking notes. Jeff.
I think of you as very positive, and then I would tell
why I
her
rock with Jeff,
what
yo.
may have changed specifically to her without bringing up her relationship, because I don't be in people's business.
Okay, you wrote that down. Are you 32?
No.
Your friend's a hater. All right. Very good. Who else got something to say on this? A lot of people just said, I'm clapping my hands at shutting my mouth. That's what people said.
Jeff, why do you think people struggle with seeing the signs in an intimate relationship more so?
The signs of what?
Like the signs of you, my New York queen. She's from New York. She got here 2 months ago. Welcome to Boston. Why do you think people struggle with being able to see the signs? I feel like when people are in intimate relationships, they struggle with seeing people for who they are because they're stigmatized or vaginamatized too.
Right. Do you choose if you're in a relationship, did you sit down with an Excel spreadsheet and write down your loved one's strengths and then versus their deficits and then say, overall, this looks like a good investment? No. Instead, you just slowly feel yourself drawn to somebody, right? Just drawn to them. So it's an emotional decision. But the signs are not emotional. The signs are the facts on the ground. And you all know, has anyone ever looked at someone else's baby picture and the baby looked fine, maybe even not so fine, but isn't he so cute? Right? Everyone knows the truth. My own baby is exceptionally attractive. And everyone else knows the truth. Your baby's not exceptionally attractive. Mine is. Mine is the good-looking baby. And so the challenge is to realize that when people are making emotional decisions, you're probably not going to logic them out of it. You can't logic people out of that's why you can't get people out of cults. They all know they've heard of cults. Other things are cults. But this guy actually is Jesus. I've met him, and it's him. And so that's why they struggle with these signs. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's so fraught, right? As New York over here said. She said, yo, B, not mean. She was talking to everyone had a do-rag. Every single person in the room had a do-rag, just like Cameron. But no, she tried to tell him, but they weren't receptive, right? They just weren't receiving. Now here's the trick. You got something you could?
Yeah, I was gonna say something, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. You
Nah,
go.
you want to talk, girl? You raise your hand, say it.
So I think too, a lot of times is like when you're in a relationship, your partner, your spouse is saying everything they can to make you feel like in love or whatever it is, when everybody else is looking out from the outside. So when you're in the inside, from like personal experience, I've had a man who treated me like trash, but in that moment it wasn't, because he was saying all the good things, he was doing all the nice things for me, like, you know, like not materialistic things, but like things that I'm really, really, really sensitive about. He was really there for it. So I see those things, but like my friends don't see those things.
Right.
So
You don't know them like I do.
Yeah,
Right.
so when your friends bring you things, it's like, nah, it's not even like that. You know what I'm saying? So you're so stuck in this delusion, not delusion, but this fantasy world that you're in, that it's hard to get out and see the reality of the situation until you're no longer in that situation, or until something has really gone rock bottom. You're like, oh, snap. This is the real thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to all that. But here's something that's very important. A lot of people said they'd stay out of it, and I'm not going to say that that's wrong, because you're biting off a lot, okay? I'm like New York. I'm not the type that stays out of stuff too much. But here's what I've learned because of that. She said, bite the bullet and allow. Here's what I've learned over years of being a mentor and a coach and all these things. I don't even say allow. You know why? Because I have now accepted that I don't have any power in this situation at all. So I actually can't allow people to do nothing. The way I would describe it is that they're like Pinocchio and I'm like Jiminy Cricket. Just a little bug on their shoulder that they can swat away and go and drink the beer and turn into a donkey or whatever happens in Pinocchio. Go live in a whale. They can do whatever they want that I think is dumb, right? And it doesn't matter. I'm the professor, I'm smart, I'm a coach, I know things. People are going to do what they're going to do. At the same time, watching somebody just walk into a buzzsaw, it don't sit right. You agree? Right. So some people just say, look, you walking towards the buzzsaw and they'll just let you get cut up because they don't want to have an awkward conversation. So then how do you do it? You picked up the trick, which is I might start off and just say something like, look, you know, I always thought of you as someone who, you know, you really had good boundaries. I've always known you as somebody who really had good boundaries. And lately, you talked about this, you talked about that your mate did this and they did that. And I was like, well, from hearing you talk before, those things were like over your boundaries. So did your boundaries change? And then if they can say, well, no, blah, 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 no, but he said he won't do it again. Oh, okay, so if he does it again, what do you think you'll do? Right? And then go and go. But you got to accept in the end, Jiminy Cricket, the little nothing on the shoulder that has a little bit of influence but no power, then the person is a whole person. And then the game within the game is once you've had that talk, every time they talk, you don't go, you know what I said last time, and be that asshole that people really don't want. Instead, you've had the talk, you've given it to them, 1-2 pushes, then you leave it. And you said a beautiful thing, which is when she married him or whatever happened, and it fell apart, and then you were there to console her, and you didn't say, hey, time for me to do my happy dance and shit all over you because you're dumb and I'm smart. Because that's why people don't tell people stuff, because they worry that's what's going to happen. So instead, you go, you know what? I know how much you love them and you didn't deserve this. And, I'm here for you. We're friends and we're going to bounce back. And in the future, not today, today we cry, but in the future we'll laugh about this.
We got 3 more questions, but Jeff, I just want you to, because one thing you said earlier about the emotional decision, can you explain to people, because I think a lot of times we make decisions based off of our emotions and not logic. A lot of times we know what to do, but we don't do it. And you've talked about this a lot of times on the podcast, but can you share with people why they struggle so much with like making the right decision versus the emotional decision?
Well, there's a lot of science. I won't go into all of it now, but there's a lot of science that shows that your brain, it feels as if your brain is one cohesive thing and you're like the pilot behind your eyes. That's what it feels like. But in actuality, you have a lot of unconscious processes, and we'll call that, in this analogy that I didn't make up, the elephant. Okay? And then you have a conscious, kind of the narrator, the person in your head that speaks to you, and that's the rider. But this elephant is not trained. The elephant does what it wants to do. It goes where it wants to go. And the rider's only power is to explain and justify. So when you're talking to somebody, you're actually usually not talking to the elephant. You're talking to the rider. And you say, why did you do that? And they say, well, because I felt like, because this, that. They're giving some rationalization that they're obviously coming up with on the spot. They did it in the past, but they don't know why they did it. There's so many, you can look up like alien hand syndrome where people get their brain, you have two hemispheres of your brain, you can get it cut in half. And so they'll cover one eye. Each hemisphere handles one eye. So you cover one eye, and it'll give it instructions. Pick the drink up. They'll pick it up. Then you ask the person out loud, right? So they're talking to the elephant only. You ask the person out loud, why'd you pick it up? And they say, oh, I was thirsty. Because the side that explains can no longer talk to the side that does. So I use this as an example just to say that the way people's brains works, they make decisions, and then the explainer just explains it afterwards with a bunch of bullshit that's not true. And so when people pick a mate, you've had this experience before. You can go through your phone, and there's the person who you already intellectually know is not good for you, but you really want them to come over tonight. And then the other person who's offering you a nice time, but they don't give you that tingle. And so you just find a reason for why you're going to do what you already know is not good for you.
What's the tingle?
Do people need me to define the tingle? Or can we accept?
We talked about that one already.
We
That's
can
that
accept
trigger.
that the tingle is a real thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so people know what that's like, right? Some reason why you're working on losing weight, you want to fit into this dress to go to Celeste's show, but listen, it's a holiday. Listen, we all got to eat cake on Veterans Day. We all know that. Just some BS reason, the elephant is in control. So the fact is, oftentimes the solution is to slow down and be intentional, right? When I'm speaking to somebody, I'm trying to speak really to the elephant. That's why I don't say, that man's no good, because I'm attacking somebody that you love, and I'm saying you have bad judgment. Instead, I say, I think if you are someone with good boundaries, well, that's a compliment, and it's true, right? Then the elephant, that doesn't stampede the elephant away. Then I say, so tell me about your boundaries. Well, I never let people put their hands on me. Oh, well, I agree. You did say that before, but didn't this person put their hands on you? So did your boundaries change? Instead of saying, you're weak, you're like Tina Turner before she broke from the things that would stampede the elephant, instead you talk to people in a way that makes them feel, that never makes the elephant stampede away. And that's the game within the game, without lying. You notice I'm not saying to lie to people, but you have to accept that if you make them feel bad, they'll solve it by saying, you're a liar, you're wrong, you're stupid, I'm not talking to you. They're not going to be like, you've hit me with some hard truths. That's why you like to watch Kevin Samuels talk to other people, but he doesn't change anybody's mind.
So use that example, too, in your relationships when you're talking to your partner.
I appreciate what you said, Jeff, and you said something that has kind of slipped my mind right now, but basically it kind of holds to the point of back to the holding yourself accountable and really doing that self-reflection to review on what it is that you're doing, right? And trying to train that elephant, because maybe you won't train that elephant completely, but you can hold it to a point where maybe it doesn't automatically stampede and you get a second to think about what it's gonna do or what you're gonna do before it stampedes. And so really doing that self-reflection, I think, is what a lot of people are generally lacking and what we need to really focus on for ourselves.
Exactly. This is all about behavioral economics. You could read Kahneman and Tversky's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, which is like the Bible of behavioral economics, but it basically talks about all the cognitive biases that people have that they use to trick themselves, or people use to trick you, because it speaks to the elephant and speaks right past the rider.
That's good. Julia?
How should an adult daughter deal with a toxic mother when the mother is always putting the daughter down? Doesn't make any effort when the daughter tried to work on the relationship and the mother has very negative outlook on life.
What do y'all think about this? This is your mother.
So the question is, how should an adult...
Let me guess, cut them off immediately.
How should an adult daughter deal with a toxic mother when the mother is always putting the daughter down? Doesn't make an effort when the daughter tried to work on the relationship and the mother has a very negative outlook on life. And I'm going to come right over after this.
So I feel like there's a lot of strained mother-daughter relationships, right? Especially as we become adults and we reflect on our childhood and realize, oh, my mom wasn't this, and other. And so I've had that struggle. But I saw a quote a while back that made me kind of think, and it was what was it? We have to realize that our parents are also full human beings who are the results of their childhood trauma. And so we hold our parents on this pedestal, and they should be perfect in our eyes as their children, but we have to realize that they're not perfect, and the way they behaved and the way they parented us was a result of how they were parented. And so we can hold them accountable, but also I feel like with a little bit of grace.
Cut him off?
Empathy.
You surprised me, cut him off?
But no, but that's a good point, right? Your parents is just some lady. Your mother's just some lady. She wasn't always your mother. She was always your mother for you, but she used to just be some lady. But on the other hand, at what point does that become enabling? Who else?
Yep, I'm coming back.
I think it's the same thing like she said, giving grace. We just have to recognize that people are still individuals, and just because you have an expectation of somebody doesn't mean that it's their responsibility to live up to your expectation. And so you have to be able to allow them and give them the grace to be who they are. If you're capable and able to have that conversation or attempt to have that conversation, if they're ready for that conversation, then you can do that. But if they're not ready for that conversation, you just have to do your best and know where you're at, and then learn or try to accept them for where they're at, and just continue to allow them that space and show them through your actions to not allow them or enable them to treat you that certain way until they start to come around to make that change.
Okay, but I just want to, just as a counterpoint, didn't we have a talk earlier about a toxic friend? They'd known him a long time, 4th grade, long time. But it was like, look, if you don't shape up, then you're out. But with your mother, can that never happen?
So I think with mothers, I think this journey is continuous because I feel like the older you get, the more you have to work through. But I love how you guys are saying bringing love into the equation in terms of showing them self-love. But in addition to that, I think the biggest thing for me is boundaries. You could love someone, but you still have to protect yourself. And I think boundaries is what is holding my relationship together with my mom. So I would definitely encourage boundaries in addition to loving them and showing them love. Yeah.
Y'all know that phrase, good fences make good neighbors, right? Boundaries.
No, that's right.
With a lot of family, you can love your family, but you can not like the things that they do. And I think that's like huge with like, I love my family, but there's certain things that I do not really like. And then going again on what she said, like setting those boundaries, like I'm here for certain occasions, but I will leave early.
Oh, but do you owe it to what if there's, like, could I skip Thanksgiving or I gotta go because it's my mother? Okay. Oh, okay. Because you gotta have that spaghetti with hot dogs in it.
No, Haitians cook.
Haitians don't put hot dogs in spaghetti. I made that up.
No.
Thank you.
But
Thank you. I know.
where my Haitians at? I'm not even Haitian. I'm trying to think, y'all.
Jonathan, are y'all having hot dog spaghetti this Thanksgiving? Yes. And that black rice. Yes, you are. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty.
One thing that I was just gonna say, I'm actually glad that you brought up Haitian, or really what I was gonna say is culture is a layer that I think we really need to discuss, and that makes this question, maybe going back to what you just said about one part of the brain, the other part of the brain and such, but culture is a layer, especially I feel like with us, that we really need to take into context. It shouldn't excuse like people treating us a particular way, but when we're talking about family, specifically parents and all of that, culture really does play a big part in the way that we do or don't, and you can like fill in the blank, whatever that means. So I think from something as, well, actually, it might not be simple for everyone to say, like, a holiday. What are you going to do about that? For one person, their answer might be like, I'm not going because I don't want to. For another person, I'm insert eldest daughter, eldest son, whatever, you know, put title or responsibility or whatever the case is. So I think bringing in that context would probably make the question writer, if that is a big part of it, that might also have them sitting with themselves and like really trying to figure out what does this mean, not just as relationship between a mother and, you know, and a child, but also what does this mean in relation to my culture?
Right. The family is a whole system. It's not just mother and so if you skip Thanksgiving, you're skipping out on everybody, not just mom.
And you're basically telling your parents you hate them.
Well,
I'm not saying that's true. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's true, but I'm saying how it's interpreted
that
sometimes,
message,
unfortunately,
it's
on
like,
the
in some
other
countries,
end.
the middle finger doesn't mean anything, but here it means F
That's
you,
what I'm saying.
right?
Absolutely not saying that's true, but in other ways, how it's interpreted, like you can tell your parent something in terms of, oh, I'm, you know, I know we usually talk on Thursdays, but I'm under the weather today. So basically, you hate your mother and you never want to speak to me again. Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I know that's projection. I know that's extreme, but I think culture is so important to us, and it's important for us to, like, use that lens, I think, when we are holding ourselves accountable, but also other people.
Well, let's see, because we're coming up on time, but let's see. Applaud if you think you can never cut off your mother for any reason. Applaud if you think there's reasons you could cut off your mother. That's interesting. I actually seemed like the cutoffs was a little bit, but I think the cutoffs might have been a little firmer with the claps rather than being more people. Right. Celeste, what do you say?
So my mother's here. I'm definitely not cutting off my mother. My mother's over there somewhere in the corner. But I'm gonna say that. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna just loop things together. Like, we gotta give people grace, right? You know, I've been so heavily focused on Black people and what we go through, and a lot of us and our parents have been survivors, and but it doesn't excuse like how we're treated. So the boundaries have to come into play, and like you said, the culture piece. So I think it's important to think about what you need. A lot of times we only focus on how other people may feel, and we make those decisions because I don't want them to feel bad if I don't show up. But then what are you going to feel like later, right? So I get that, like, not showing up is going to feel hard, but showing up can feel harder. And so a lot of times I think we don't realize the effects that is happening because we're not being self-aware and mindful of how we're affected by things. I always say, like, I wish we could see in real time mentally what happens with us when we don't do what we need to do, because it manifests in different ways. And you know, if I cut my finger and I had a cut and it was underwater, I could feel the water immediately and I could feel the pain. But I think when it comes to the mental health things that we don't take care of, we're not mindful and self-aware, so we don't see how it's affecting our choices and relationships at work, with our kids, with our partners. So I think it's really important for us to become self-aware and, like, really put ourselves first, even if it doesn't feel good.
Right, because no one cigarette gives you the cancer.
Right.
You never stop. If you only knew that this is the one that did it, you would just not do that.
Any
Mental health
smokers
is
in
kinda
here?
like that.
Any
They
smokers
still
in here?
any smokers in here who think it's good for you? No, they all know.
We talk about that cigarette, not the marijuana.
So let me say, and we're going to do our last question. Let me say that I think some of us have the privilege, most of us have the privilege, luckily, where our relationships with our parents, with our mother, is strong enough where you almost can't imagine that other people don't have that deep down. But I want you to know that some people don't have it. Some people's parents, mothers, caregivers really can get to the point where you have to leave them behind. That can actually happen. Okay, so I want to leave room for that. Most people, the reason why you can say that, most people aren't going to err on the side of cutting off their mother too quick. Like, whoops, I cut her. She borrowed $5 and forgot about it.
Good,
She's
okay.
cut for life. So keep that in mind. There are people in this world whose parents are, whatever they're going through or whatever it is, they, abusive, toxic in a real way. Not just they do little slick shit I don't like, or they, it's important to have boundaries, but some people, it's like they can't be in my life. They're not safe around my kids. Right. They're not safe to me. They have untreated mental illness. So to me, I think I would fall down on, it's basically a fact that you have to be able to cut off you have to be able to. But luckily, most of us will never have to go through something so traumatic as that. Mm-hmm. If you do, I don't know if the letter writer does. If I think that's basically the same process as that friend, but a little more grace and a little more, because there's more investment, it's more talking, it's more, maybe with your mother you say, can we go to therapy? Whereas with a friend, maybe you don't have to do that. But in the end, you have to leave room for having a relationship with you is hurting me. Having a relationship with you is hurting me, and I can't do it. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to be able to say that, because people who are in this situation sometimes face everyone going, but that's your mother. But that's your mother. So, yes, she did that, but yes, she lit your stuff on fire, but that's your mother. Yes, she spit in your face in front of the school PTA, but that's your mother.
I know.
No, some people, you have to, so basically that has to be on the table, but if you're going to go to therapy or do things to really try to work it out, makes sense to me. All right.
All right.
One
we
more.
got two. We got two more questions.
we have
so,
two.
yeah,
Let's do
we'll
it.
just answer
Speed
the last
round.
two. Yeah.
Speed
All
round.
right.
Let's do it.
I haven't been the best person in life. Without going into details, I've hurt a lot of people because of my substance abuse. I do not know how to forgive myself for my past.
What do you say, Celeste?
So forgiveness is hard. I think forgiving others is hard, but I think people struggle mostly with forgiving themselves. I think for people that are struggling with the harm they've done other people, if the other person is not willing to accept your apology or willing to have a relationship with you, like, you have to understand, like, that's the consequences of what has happened. And I think that I always tell people, if you're still breathing, there's room for change. So they're going to, like, what you've done is always going to be a part of you. So there are going to be moments where you may feel down or sad about what has happened. But try to find the joy in the moments, and being mindful of, like, the good things that you are doing. Because a lot of times people have hurt people because they've been hurt. I'm not using that as an excuse, but that's just the reality of life. Especially in our community. So I think it's really important to just, like, give yourself grace, and remind yourself that there's still, especially if you're still breathing, there's still life to live. And I think the biggest piece is that the other person doesn't have to have a relationship with you. I speak to people on both ends of the spectrum, the one has done the harm and the one that's been harmed. And I always tell people, you can forgive, but you don't have to have a relationship with that person. But I think because people are going through this healing journey, they're expecting the person to go along with the ride. But you can't have that expectation because it just may not be the case for them.
I think that's all very true. And I think, people who are in recovery oftentimes use the phrase, taking it one day at a time, right? You never say, like, I'm a former alcoholic. You say, like, I'm an alcoholic and I haven't had a drink in 15 years. And it's the same thing with if you acted like a piece of shit. You say, I used to do bad things. I've hurt people, but now I don't.
Yeah.
And so you take that one day at a time, too. So the way you forgive yourself is it's conditionally based on the day. In the past, well, no, I don't vouch for those things. Sometimes I can't take it back. And if I stole from my family or whatever it is, they may never, like, trust me. People who grew up with a drug addict in the house, they get, like, a lock on their door, like a real lock, like a deadbolt.
Mm-hmm.
And they say they may never leave that bedroom unlocked around me ever again because they've been wounded, and I earned that.
Yeah.
But all I'm going to do is earn every day when I interact with them. I'm going to say, I'm going to give them every reason to trust me and know that this is my work. This is the penance that I pay. I'm never going to cross some kind of line where, now it's me and everything's back to normal. There's no time machine. But I'm going to make sure that no one ever regrets trusting me from this day forward, for anything I do from this day forward. And if you do that, then I forgive you too, dog. So keep it up.
Last question.
All right, last question. How can I help my husband see a different perspective when he's set in his ways?
That was me. I'm just kidding. That wasn't me.
You want to go first or me?
You can go first.
Well, first of all, let's start with how do I, help make him see or help him see or whatever it is. I'm going to say the Jiminy Cricket thing again, right? He gets to see things how he wants to see them. He has autonomy. Just because you're married doesn't mean you get to, like, change people's minds against their will. That being said, the way to change is to not stampede the elephant. When you're talking to them, whatever it is, whatever the problem is, and it's even harder because when you really know people well, you know their little minor things. Like, you can tell when something's wrong with them just by a way that they react that's different, pattern recognition. So usually they come home and they sit on the couch, but this time they go right in the bedroom and they shut the door. And like, that's not our pattern, so I know you're mad. So it's even harder to broach these subjects, but the goal is to talk to people, understand their point of view. Sometimes I use the term inquiry instead of advocacy. So I want to inquire. I want to understand your point of view. I don't start right with, I like the Red Sox, you like the Yankees, and I go, Yankees? What are you, stupid? You don't know about Big Papi and Ted Williams and blah, blah, blah? No. Instead, let's hear all about what you like about the Yankees. Then I'm in the best position to understand what you find compelling. So you say, well, the Yankees have the best hitter. I don't know enough about baseball, but the Yankees have the best hitter. And I go, actually, well, Ted Williams is the only one to bat 400. So if we're going by that, then that's the best hitter. And remember, that was after he went and flew fighter jets in World War II. So he actually would have had, can assume he would have had more years like that. So if the Red Sox had the best hitter, does that change your mind at all? And that's about as good as you can do. But the minute you start getting an attitude, start trying to cut people down, call somebody stupid, imply that you think this, like, well, I mean, I guess, stupid people do think that. The elephant is it's running away, and then you'll never get them back, and you're just screaming at the back of the rider. So that's how you change minds. It's hard, but you got to give grace, and you got to be open to the idea. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you should be listening to him. I didn't hear that in the question. But maybe you should be listening. I don't mean always, but every time you're debating, could be you. Mm-hmm. So if you keep that in mind, that's probably the best you can do.
Yeah, I like that.
This table is like, nah, but it's not. It's always.
And I'll just say a lot of times we got to be mindful on the way that we grew up, right? So sometimes our perspective on the way we think things should look like could be based off of what we've seen growing up. And so I think that's an important caveat to remember, and not get so set on this question feels very controlling. How can I help my husband see my perspective when he's set in his ways?
Does it say my perspective?
Oh, how can I see a different perspective? Oh, okay, when he's set in his ways. So really being mindful of just kind of your upbringing and trying to meet your partner halfway, I think is important.
It's all the work is in. If you can really understand where somebody's coming from, if you focus on that, the first thing I want to do, I'll tell you this last thing. I don't know if I ever said on the show. So there's such thing as a straw man argument. If people have ever heard this, it's a logical fallacy. So this is this. If this woman says, I don't like vanilla ice cream. And I say, you hear that? She doesn't like ice cream. That's a straw man argument. That's not what you said. I've moved from vanilla, which is one type, I moved it to all ice cream because that's easy to argue against. I guarantee almost everyone here likes some kind of ice cream. But I'm moving what you said into something that's easier to attack. That's a straw man argument. So a steel man would be the opposite. If you say, I'll take a popular and divisive one. If you say, like, well, I believe that abortion should be legal, not because I think abortion is good, but because I think it's a choice between a woman and her doctor. And I go, okay, so you're saying, if I can steel man this, you're saying that you think that even though you yourself might have different feelings about whether someone should have an abortion, you think that it's such a personal decision that no one should make it for them but them and a medical professional. Is that true? And then if you would say, yes, that is what I think. Now I've steel manned your position. I've proved that I understand your position so well that I can put it into words that you yourself will agree with. Instead, what people do is they go, you're a baby killer. And they go, oh, you want to control women and turn life into Handmaid's Tale. And since neither side really thinks that, all they do is bang, bang, bang. So you can do that you can do that in a personal relationship too, where they say, do you like this dress? I don't think it's your best. You said it makes me look fat. That's not what I said. And before you know it, we're fighting because we're mischaracterizing each other. So if you can steel man someone's position, which, by the way, if you want to see a trick, I've done this all night. Every time somebody says something, I say what they said again in different terms to prove that I got it. I did that 30 times tonight. Think back. All I do is steel man your position because we can't really engage until I'm sure that I know what you're talking about. This person does this with their husband, they'll be a lot better off.
I like it. How do we wrap up the show, Jeff?
Before you officially wrap up, there's a small announcement before you officially.
Oh my God, he's gonna propose again, Jonathan.
Just a small one before you officially stop the show. Just wait a little bit more time. It's taking a little bit longer than I thought it would.
What are you?
I'm pregnant.
Dun, 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 dun. I'm not gonna do that. Not by myself. Happy birthday to you.
Wait, who's this for?
I mean, Jeff's birthday's the day before mine.
Together.
Happy birthday, dear Celeste. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday because she takes care of everybody. She pours into everybody every day of her life, so she deserves to be celebrated as well. So.
That took a lot for him to say that. He doesn't talk.
This does not look like enough cake for 40 people, though. Tough break.
That's my husband, and he doesn't talk. I'm surprised he came up here.
Make a wish.
And Jeff's birthday is November 5th. Mine's is November 6th.
We don't have to go into that.
It just happened to be that way.
You gotta sing it again?
We're just gonna wave it because it's COVID. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? COVID. We was living dirty back in the day, blowing on the cake. We was living dirty. Thank you.
That's a good husband.
So I just want to do. Let's wrap up the show, and then I just want to do the raffle. So, because I like to bring it all together. Like, what do you think the theme is? Jeff is a lot smarter than me. That's why I picked him, because I'm a little slow. Wrap it up for me, Jeff.
You've been slow with them drinks. I think a lot of the theme tonight is people had the right idea. We didn't know. I mean, we've never done this format before, and for all we know, y'all would be empty and just saying a bunch of toxic garbage.
Not my people. I don't think my people are empty.
Agree.
Don't be talking about my
This
people.
group, I think one theme from tonight is to be conscientious, to be explicit with what you want with others, and to slow down and think about what you're doing yourself, and not just let that elephant run roughshod. Because that elephant, almost all the trouble you ever got to, every time you broke a bottle over somebody's head or gave a cop a middle finger or stole from Walmart, that was that elephant.
Or Bradley's.
Right? Or stole from Bradley's. That's why that Bradley's went out of business, because of Carla Montero. It turned into liquidators because they said, we just can't, the Criollo bandit is taking everything. So when it's yourself, think about it. When it's others, be explicit. And you got to have a loving relationship. You got to trust. You do those three things, I feel like your elevator will be going up.
That bag too.
All right.
Yes, thank you. That was good. I don't have nothing to say. Jeff says it all. That's why I got him here. So I have 2 raffles I want to give away, 3 raffles. There's another bag over there, isn't there? Yeah, there's another bag like that. So these are from 2 sponsors. Tamika Vincent is the founder and CEO of Vincent's Candle LLC. She's working in the finance industry. She understands the importance of financial freedom. She founded Vincent Candle because lighting a candle and listening to music has always been her escape. Whoop, whoop. It has allowed her to create a stress-free realm of relaxation and tranquility through aromatherapy, giving her the freedom to forget about everything else and practice self-care. So I'm giving out 2 raffles. Julian, where you at, Julian? You ain't off, yo. I know, you know what I'm saying? You stay down.
Julian got his coat on. He never took his hat off. Julian's. Well, them 6 a.m. boxing come awful early.
They come quick.
Come on, Julian.
Let's pull up Vanna.
So we have 2 for that. So
How many?
2. So 2. Yeah. So that's one, and then another one, and then I'll read off the next.
I can't hold the drum roll that long, Julian.
I know. I can't get it open that fast.
So the first one is here. Go ahead.
First one goes in.
Yeah. Whoever that
When he
is.
calls your name, come on up.
Read it, Julian.
That's what I was
Oh,
trying to
sorry,
do.
my bad.
Give it to me. Take it. Give it. Open it. All right. N-E.
N-E.
N-E. Anna-E.
Oh. Okay, give this to her. This is Anna's.
Here, I.
Whoop, whoop.
Very good.
All
Listen
right.
to the lackluster applause for people that wish it was them.
Those are the haters we was talking about.
Haters.
Anna, those are the haters.
Right? The other girl, the other woman at the table was like,
Tamara. It's a little wrinkle, so I apologize.
All right, so this next raffle is different. This is from NPL Consulting. So Natalie Pierre is the owner and operator of LPL Consulting LLC. She has been a licensed attorney for over a decade, started multiple businesses for herself and others, and had a career spanning law, education, entrepreneurship, hospitality, and administrative support. She has provided legal and business guidance to multiple popular social media influencers. She also facilitated a breakout session on business formation and brand protection at the I Am Miracle Women's Conference. Most importantly, Natalie has a passion for helping entrepreneurs achieve their dreams by understanding the basic businesses and legal concepts required to have a successful businesses. That's important. We all want to start businesses, but we don't know the basics. So this next raffle is a business startup basics, the steps you need to make your business official and simple, easy to understand steps so you ain't going to jail for that PP loan fraud. I'm sorry. All right. Something's wrong with me. I'm sorry. Here it is.
She's snorting and shit.
I'm a podcast, so don't judge me. This is a don't know where to start. 4-part video series covers all important steps to launching a business, whether it's online or brick and mortar. How to get your EIN, what you need to have in order when registering your business, the importance of protecting your brand and intellectual property. Celeste The Therapist is trademarked, so if you're a therapist and your name is Celeste, you can't take my name. The importance of ironclad contracts. All right, so let's see who gets this. And if you don't have a business, so you can always gift this to somebody else too. So just let me know.
Jasmine, welcome.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Very good.
That's really cool.
So thank you all so much. I want to thank Shimmy, who always provides the pictures for me, Brian and Chino on the video, Show from It's Lit Boston podcast. When I started my podcast, Show actually DM'd me and was like, invited me to the community because I didn't know anybody. So he's been very instrumental and like really supportive, and he has his own podcast. Julian from Team Pollard, thank you so much for this. Okay, any more vendors? Oh, this is a Black-owned spot. I don't know her name. What is her name? Nia. Thank you, Nia, for this. And thank you, Jeff, for being an amazing host. And last but not least, thank you all for being here and supporting this.
All right, big
podcast.
round of applause. Woo! I thought people don't do standing ovations no more. That's over. Thank you all. Good night.